Hey guys, Chris here from Carolot Farm. I'm really excited to sit down and talk to you this morning about what I'm feeding my two mares. We have been giving them both a couple of different things these days, and I can't wait to really talk more in depth because some of the supplements we're using I'm super excited about, and I definitely want to share them with you. It's so nice to see Lady eagerly eating her breakfast like this. I'll tell you more about it, but last week we were having some difficulties. She was definitely off her feed, you could say, but we've got things back on track and she's a very happy girl right now. So for starters, about a week ago, actually it was more like a week and a half ago, I started noticing that Lady here no longer had the same super, excitement to come in and to eat. And not only was she not as excited to come in and eat, she was beginning to eat less and less of each meal. And it first started off where she just had a handful left over one day. And then the next meal, there were 2 handfuls left over. And this continued to kind of build to the point where I started scaling back her feed because she wasn't eating it, which meant she was getting less and less in total. And that just was really concerning because, she is older. I know that she is still a little underweight and we're really trying to still put weight on her. So I knew I had to try to figure it out. And let me tell you what we came to. As I kept watching Lady, like day after day, I began to get the sense that perhaps she was having some sort of stomach upset because she would go out in the field and she would graze on the little bit of grass we have and she would nibble on the hay. But I know that she's not the most efficient at eating hay. We're seeing hay balls. And I also know that we don't have tremendously good grass. So I didn't think that she was getting a whole ton of forage from those 2 things. And I was beginning to wonder if maybe the, 3/4 of a pound of senior feed that she had been eating for the last 2 months was maybe beginning to upset her stomach and throw her stomach acids out of balance. Horses do get stomach ulcers. They can have stomach issues just like we do. And as I was watching her, that was really what my gut was telling me. And so I began searching for some sort of ulcer medication that I could give a mini. When you're feeding a mini, and I think I've mentioned this before, but something you want to be really mindful of is their size and their weight. Because they are so much smaller than a full-size horse, there are many supplements and feeds and other medications that are either not recommended for minis or horses under a certain weight, or if you do feed them, you have to be really careful that you feed them based on their weight. And so that was a trouble I was having when I started looking for some sort of ulcer medication. Something that a lot of people use is called Ulcer Guard, and it's something you can buy at most of your feed stores, your other, farm and garden animal type places. However, the Ulcer Guard is only rated for horses 600 pounds and higher. And I imagine that's because of the way in which the medication tube is kind of calibrated. A lot of these have little rollers that you can move to like a particular weight. And I don't think it's calibrated for horses smaller than 600 pounds. So I couldn't go use, kind of the go-to Ulcer Guard, which meant I had to find something else to try for my mini. When I went to the store, again, I knew I couldn't use the Ulcer Guard. And so I was looking at other products that were on the shelf that were readily available. And I saw something called Ulcer Aid. I contemplated getting that. And then I saw something else. This is made by Mana Pro. And the reason I got this over the Ulcer Aid, truth be told, is because it had a 100% money back guarantee on it. When you're buying supplements for your horses, especially if they are more natural supplements, you just never know, how is it going to work? Will my horse even eat it? Some horses are very particular. And some of these things do smell and taste a little weird. So the fact that it had a 100% money back guarantee, I was super excited about it. I even double checked when I went to purchase this. It was only $20. It was really cheap. The Ulcer Aid, I think, was closer to $30. but it was really the guarantee. And so I double checked, like I said, and the cashier was like, yep, you just bring it back with your receipt and we'll absolutely honor it. And so I was sold. I mean, there was no harm in trying it, and my mare definitely needed something. And so I brought this home. I think I purchased this about a week ago, last Thursday maybe. And I think that was Sweetheart and Lady having a little a little meet and greet over there. But I brought this home Thursday. I gave it to Lady Thursday evening. Because she is so little, I'm only giving her like a little less than a half portion. And the first night she ate it pretty well. You know, she was still getting less feed than her full original amount. And she didn't eat all of it, but she ate most of it. And so the next morning, I gave her another dose of it, and she ate, I think, all of her breakfast that morning. And the next evening, I gave her again her full meal. And then after I fed her, she was really interested in this extra soaked hay pellet that I had. When Lady's finished eating, she comes over here, and I'm pretty sure it's because she'd actually like to eat more. I mean, the boys lick the buckets clean. Sometimes she goes into Sweetheart's feedlot after I've turned her out, and she likes to like pick up all the little teeny morsels that Sweetheart has dropped. And so she has got a really good appetite back, which is such a wonderful thing. If you have a horse who you suspect has some sort of digestive issues, or a horse that is maybe experiencing a little bit of stress and maybe some sort of ulcer or pre-ulcer issue, try this out. I mean, I'm just really, really happy. Maybe it's a fluke, but this has been like the best bang for the buck for sure. Now, something else I'm trying for Sweetheart here, she just wants to go out, is the cough-free. Again, I've waited all summer long to try it. We were trying so many other things, and I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, I might as well try it. It's not going to hurt anything. She's been getting cough-free for about a week, just like Lady's been getting her supplement. I'm not seeing like the same miraculous, fix with this. I'll keep giving it for another month, maybe even 2, because a container this size with a mini, again, she's getting a half portion, is going to last a really long time. I think they say this is like a 48-day supply, so I'm looking at maybe a couple of months here. So I'll let you know how that goes. But for Sweetheart, we're still having some issues. She's completely off hay. She's getting hay pellets twice a day. She's doing well. Her weight looks good. But she is still a little wheezy. I don't know if you can hear her. There's a little more of a wheeze to her this morning. But, no bubbles, no horrible nasal discharge. So, I mean, it's kind of a win, but I think it's just kind of a seasonal change. So, we're still trying to figure out what to do for Sweetheart. Sweetheart here, I was telling you, she's getting the cough-free pellets twice a day. And I think she's getting like a half a scoop morning and night. Again, they say to load them, it's like 2 scoops, but for Minnie, it's 1 scoop. And so she's getting like, a third to a half a scoop, with each meal. I've been slowly increasing the amount of cough-free I'm giving her though, because the first day I gave it to her, she really didn't like it. The cough-free does smell and I think taste quite different. So if you have a really finicky horse, just be mindful. She is coming around to it, but she really wasn't happy the first couple of days. After I turned Sweetheart out here, I want to head back to the house because I also want to take this opportunity to talk to you about the hay pellets that I'm feeding my minis. Because again, if you have minis, you might be in a similar situation, and I want to share with you what's working for us. I do also want to mention though with Lady, because she is eager to eat more, she's got a really good appetite these days and she's really enjoying the hay pellets. I am slowly increasing the amount of hay pellets that she is getting. Like anything, with horses, you want to start small and just gradually increase the amount. And so each day I'm giving her just a little more, and I'll show you that in the house, just kind of how I've been measuring it. But I'm going to keep an eye on her weight, and if she needs more, we'll continue to increase. Hey guys, welcome to the front porch. I really want to show you all of the things I'm feeding my horses, and this might seem silly, but for me, the biggest part or hurdle perhaps of owning minis is really figuring out how to wisely and carefully feed them. I've had horses almost my whole adult life. I grew up riding. I've been around horses forever, it feels like. But this is the first year owning minis, and it's been a real journey, and I'm learning a lot, and I want to share everything because when I was trying to do all my research before I brought my first mini home to the farm, I wasn't finding a lot of information on what to specifically feed them or recommendations. And so I want to share my journey with you. To get started, what I have here are teff hay pellets. This was the hay pellet that I chose to go with for my mini. Originally, I was just feeding Sweetheart pellets, but now I'm giving the pelleted hay to Sweetheart and Lady. And the reason I've gone with the teff is teff grass, teff hay is meant to be lower, I think, in carbs and sugar. It's supposed to be more like metabolic safe if you have a sensitive horse. And so that's why I went with the teff over Timothy or some others. I knew I didn't want to give my minis like an alfalfa blend. They just don't need that. It's super rich. But the teff I was really happy to find, and that's what I've been using so far. Now that you know what type of hay pellet I've been feeding, you might wonder, well, how much? That's a really good question, and that is one that is really dependent upon your horse's weight. Back in the summer, I did take weight measurements on all of my minis, and so I know that Sweetheart weighs around 300 pounds, between 300 and 315. Back in the summer, she was a little heavier, and so I imagine she's still hovering around that 300-pound mark. So what's recommended is that you feed your horse 1 to 2% of their body weight. So with Sweetheart, 1% of her body weight would be 3 pounds. Now, that is also recommended if your horse is not eating any other forage, no grass, no hay. In Sweetheart's case, though, she is still out on pasture and she does still have some grass to chase. So I feel comfortable right now giving her just the 1% of her body weight. She's getting 1.5 pounds in the morning and 1.5 pounds in the evening. So in total, she's getting that 3 pounds or 1% per day. In Lady's case, because she's just starting out on the hay pellets, she's eating a lot less. And this here, I measured it just today. It's about 1/2 pound. When I first started feeding her, she maybe was given 1/4 pound. We've slowly increased it to 1/2. And I might increase it a little bit more because she's still really eager and she seems like she's wanting a little more to eat. But because she is still on grass, like Sweetheart, but she's also on hay, I don't think she'll need as much of the hay pellet. And Lady is also getting more grain that I want to talk to you about now. I'll keep talking about Lady since she's kind of on my brain right now. Lady, in addition to that 1/2 pound of hay stretcher, she is getting 3/4 pound of Triple Crown Senior. This was the feed that she originally was eating once she came to the farm, and she had just been getting the Triple Crown Senior for the first 2 months. But then last week, when she kind of was off her feed and having, I think, some belly issues, we started her on the Optizyme Digest Aid. And when that really kind of perked her appetite back up, we then started adding the hay pellets because she was showing that she really wanted to eat more. So Lady is getting quite a bit more grain here than Sweetheart. You know, Sweetheart is just getting, it's a generous 2-ounce cup of Triple Crown Senior. So it's interesting, you know, when I make their feeds in their buckets, you know, Sweetheart's getting a lot more hay pellet, but she's getting less grain, and then Lady vice versa. So after I soak everything, which is a really important part, you do have to soak these hay pellets really, really well. It takes them a good 30 to 45 minutes to really puff up. I like to use warm water. To me, that's a little trick that helps it go a little faster. But after everything has kind of been soaked and the grains swell and rehydrate, they actually both get a very similar amount of food. But again, Lady is getting more calories in her grain than Sweetheart. Whenever you're feeding your mini, whether you're feeding them grain, hay pellets, or supplements, this applies for medication as well. It's really important to know how much your horse weighs. This is especially true with minis because if you are off and just guessing your horse's weight, if you're off by 50 pounds on a mini, let's say you guess your horse is 250 pounds and they're actually 300 pounds. Maybe it's a small mini and they're only 200. That's a really big difference and a big percentage of their weight that you could be off by. And so you don't want to overdose them or underdose them. So knowing your horse's weight, one, is really, really important. Once you know how much your horse weighs, you can then start to figure out, well, what's the serving amount that is recommended based on your horse's weight. A lot of supplements such as these will just say 1 to 2 scoops per day per horse. They don't say full-size horse, pony, mini. And so I would recommend that if you have a supplement such as that, you reach out to either your vet or your feed specialist if you have one, because they can reach out to the manufacturer, which my friend did for me, and was able to get a pretty quick response. And they recommended that the cough-free, we cut the full-size dosage in half, and they recommended that my mini be fed 1 scoop to load for the first 2 weeks per day, and then to cut her back to half a scoop for maintenance. And so we're doing that for Sweetheart. The Optizyme, I'm doing a very similar thing for. The bag recommended 1 to 2 scoops per horse per day as needed. And so I am giving Lady, she is getting a half a scoop in the morning and a half a scoop at night. So again, it's that 1 full scoop once a day. So that's what I'm doing here. But again, if you're ever unsure, please reach out to a specialist, because the last thing we want to do is to be overfeeding or underfeeding something that our horses might be needing. Medications are the same way. We just need to be really careful with minis because it can be very deceiving how much they weigh. Heading into winter, they get really furry. And so do try to keep a close eye on your horse's weight. And I'll see if I can't get that video finished up here in the next few weeks on how to go about gathering your horse's weight. It takes a couple of measurements. I mean, you could just use a weight tape measure, but it's not as accurate on minis as it might be on a larger horse. And again, with a mini, being off by 10, 15 to 50 pounds is a very different thing than a full-size horse. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope you've enjoyed following along our feed saga here, and check back soon because we're always up to something on the farm. Have a great rest of your day and I hope to see you soon. Bye, guys.